Yo, you're locked into the Ckingpeace podcast. Myself, Christian King. We'll be picking the minds of creatives to get insight into how they try and stay happy, healthy, and balanced in this crazy world. Enjoy.
That's a good one.
Yo, what's happening, people? You're locked into the Ckingpeace podcast. It's been a little minute, but we're back with a guest that I'm super excited to talk to. His name is Robin Mazunder. Did I say your name right?
Mazumder. But
Mazumder.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's okay. You don't pronounce the R
Mazumder.
as you should, I guess.
Mazumder.
British English.
Oh, I hear that. It is different. It is a little bit different. But how you doing, man? You're talking to me from Mexico City.
I'm good. It's a nice cloudy day here, which is actually a nice change. So I'm having a bit of a lazy day doing some writing and really happy to be here with you.
Oh, nice. Amazing, man. So for those of you that don't know, Robin's a neuroscientist that looks into the way environments impact people's well-being. But there's a lot more to you than that, right? Like that's your main premise, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a really interesting, I guess, journey in retrospect, but I worked in healthcare for a while as an occupational therapist in community mental health, which is really where I started to wonder how cities impacted people's well-being. And then after that, I had a stint running a startup accelerator. And then after that, my PhD in neuroscience, which is exactly what you described. I'm really curious about how people's physical and also social environments really shape their experience of the world.
No, that's interesting, man. But what first led you to you said you previously an occupational therapist. What kind of led you to first be interested in being gravitated towards that?
When I was in my undergrad, doing my bachelor's in Canada at the University of Victoria, I was doing it in biology with kind of the goal of, or at least the aspiration to go into med school, because that seemed to be the cool thing to do. So I took all these, biomed classes like biochemistry, chemistry, physics, and I really didn't like most of them. And then the opportunity for a co-op came up, and I don't know if you use the same terminology in the UK, but co-op's just like a work term as part of your education. And most biology work terms were for like lab-based work, which I wasn't particularly interested in, because my dad's a scientist and I grew up working in his lab, and I kind of had that experience. Okay. Anyways, I'll get to the point. I ended up getting this co-op term working with kids with disabilities for 5 years as an inclusion facilitator. And it was that work that really started to show me, the value. I never really did any kind of social service oriented stuff. I mean, I volunteered here and there as a kid, but this really just made me realize how important to me it was to have a career that involved some form of connection with people, but also a way to support them. And so then that led me to, there was a stint where I was working in Siberia with kids with disabilities there, where I saw OTs too.
Jeez.
And I came back and became a research analyst at this organization making assistive devices for people with disabilities. So like really crazy, high tech devices to help people communicate if they had like locked-in syndrome. But the director of that organization said, "Hey, you know what? I think you'd really enjoy occupational therapy." So I just applied right away, and I had no idea what it was. And
what did that kind of involve?
The application.
Because I'm working with young people with mental health at the moment.
Yeah.
Like in a music college. But yeah, I wonder how what you were doing differs.
As an occupational therapist.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure what the term means.
Yeah, I know. It's OTs don't do the best job of promoting the profession, but occupation is essentially any way that you occupy yourself. And traditionally within occupational therapy, there's self-care, leisure, and productivity, and it's a way to kind of break things down into how you should split your day up. And it can range from brushing your teeth to being a rapper. And so OTs really work to help people engage in these things that give them a sense of identity, a sense of well-being. And that's the medium, I guess, for therapy, but it's actually done within the context of understanding how the environment would inhibit or enhance that person's ability to perform or engage in that activity. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So what was it from that like led you from that to want to like study like places and urban environments in particular? Because it could have you could have easily just gone on and studied, do rural environments make people feel calmer and less anxious, which the answer is probably obviously yes. But what made you like gravitated to try and like look into ways to like improve and enhance urban areas for
I mean,
people?
I love cities. I love the vibrancy of them. I lived in London for a while.
Jeez. Oh, whereabouts did you live?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but I lived in Bloomsbury.
That's right in the center,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Whenever I told people,
About £1,500 a month or something just for like a
oh yeah,
box.
I won a scholarship to live at two residences there. So I was lucky to have my costs covered by the Canadian government
Oh,
and
amazing.
also from the Get Enough College Alumni Association of Canada. So that's how I was living in Bloomsbury.
Jeez.
But anyways, yeah, I love cities, and at the same time, cities are places where there's a lot of violence and a lot of anger and a lot of
Mm,
fear. And I think that the world's becoming more and more urbanized. I think it's like 50% right
mm,
now, and by 2040, 60% of the population will be living in cities. And so I think we have to start asking questions about what are the impacts of living in these environments, which, in some environments can be quite chaotic and overwhelming, right?
100%.
And if we're going to continue to urbanize, what are cities going to look like in 100 years? And if we're just surrounded by skyscrapers and Teslas flying down the street, like what does that do to our experience of it? How do we ensure these environments are ones that make us smile?
Yeah, so like what did you find out about like for instance like skyscrapers and like I don't know the impact of like maybe commuting every day like to go to work and like a because like we're not designed to be around thousands of people. I heard on a Joe Rogan podcast once he was talking to someone who said we're designed to be might have been Sebastian
Huh.
Junya, but that we're designed to be in like tribes of like max 250 people.
Um,
So do you think being in urban environments is like because obviously we're in a time of like crazy like unprecedented like levels of anxiety and depression and all of these things. Do you think that like urban environments are contributing to that on a like one of the main contributors?
yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what angle you take on an urban environment. If I look at urban environments as crowded places where you can't ride your bike down the street without getting hit by a car, or being brushed by one,
Mm-hmm.
or sucking up exhaust, which London has a really, it's got an issue with. There's all
Yeah,
these kind of environmental
yeah, 100%.
irritants. But at the same time, urban environments also, regardless of the structures that we build, like bike lanes or parks, to be a Black person in our society, and I say this, yeah, as a Canadian who understands that,
Mm,
as a non-Black person of color, like I'm dark skinned and people mistake me sometimes, but like that experience is
mm-hmm.
also stressful, and that's actually the focus of
Mm-hmm.
a concept and a theory, I guess I just put forward, that's going to be published in a textbook soon, that I call experiential equity, and it's about the intersection of design
Mm-hmm.
and social policy and social environments. So it's really,
Yeah.
it's super complicated, but I have hope. I think going to awesome public spaces, like London's full of them. Like London, well, I say privately owned public space because some of your parks shut down, which I learned the hard way when I was living in.
No, London. Yeah, London does have an abundance of good places to go to. To be fair, like I'm in Bristol. I've been in Bristol like the past 6 years
Mm.
now. I actually spent 6 months in Canada though last year, and I only came back because of the
No
lockdown.
way. Where
But
were you?
I yeah, I was in. I went to like volunteer at a meditation center in Quebec
Cool.
initially, and then I went to BC. I went to
Oh,
Nelson, BC. I don't know
yeah,
if you
I'm
know where
from
that is. A
BC.
really small.
Yeah.
I ended up just working in a random like hostel for like 3 months, and then two really cool people that I met in Quebec were like, we got a really cheap room going in Montreal
I
or
love
Montreal,
Montreal.
and they were like,
Montreal.
yeah, come
Sweet.
and live with us in Mile End, and it was super cheap. But I was there in the winter, so it was kind of
Oh, I
yeah,
know.
that was a major shock for me because people in the UK, moan about the weather
Oh my God,
24/7.
don't get me
But
started.
since being there, I don't really complain. I don't complain, man.
Yeah, I spent the first half of my life in Montreal because my dad was a professor at the University of Montreal.
Oh man.
And I remember going back there like
Yeah.
4 years ago, and I love Montreal. I think it's probably got the most culture in a city and good urban design and all these things that I appreciate as from
Mm.
my research perspective. But I remember going there, and I walked outside, and it was windy and like minus 36 or something, and like, oof, yeah,
Wait, it's too
one
much, isn't it?
minute,
It's too
one
much. You
minute
can't operate.
max. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So that's why I can see why in Canada it's much more car oriented. Like
yeah,
I
oh
felt
yeah,
like I felt that like I felt you had to like drive everywhere. You had to like there's like big like malls and shopping centers on the outskirts of
yeah.
town. And yeah, it didn't really feel like set up to like walk or bike around really.
No,
But you still got the mad people with the ski goggles on, like
oh,
cycling everywhere in
that's
Montreal. But
me.
yeah, in BC, that's sick though. I rate that.
It's fun.
Like that's some Wim Hof,
It's
David
fun.
Goggins
You kind
shit.
of feel
Some
like a
like
warrior. I'm not
some
gonna lie. You're like, all right, bring it on.
yeah,
And then your bike slips sideways and you smash your hip, and you're like, oh my God. So
yeah,
it comes with some risks, but
yeah. Like people think I'm a nutter for cycling all year round here, but it's because they don't know what I've seen with my
yeah,
two eyes.
relativity.
Yeah, exactly. But there was one thing I wanted to ask you actually. Well, there's a few things I want to ask you, but the next thing I want to ask you is obviously like the world's still in a bit of like a weird situation with everything that's going on. Um and like I saw like in a newspaper article you were talking about the effects of like lockdown on like levels of anxiety and
Hmm.
stuff. And loneliness. I was just wondering, like, from a like proactive point of view, what do you think? Like, because I think loneliness is an epidemic in cities pre-lockdown. Anyway, like from what I've experienced, like when I lived in London, your friends can be in like a different part of the city that's like an hour away or more by public transport, and you have to make a lot of effort to make plans sometimes. And I
Totally.
felt that it could be a bit isolating. But and especially if people are like moving to new places and like you're a traveler as well, you know how it feels to like go to a
Hmm.
brand new place and like live there for
Hmm.
a bit. What do you think cities could do to be a bit more like tribal and like communal? And what would you suggest to like someone who's moving to a new place or is struggling to meet any form of tribe in their current
I
place?
mean, one of the things I really enjoyed about London was just all of the, talks and stuff at UCL. There's just reasons to go and talk to people. Mind you, London also, I thought was one of the most social cities I'd ever lived in. And I was there in the summer of 2018 as
Yeah.
well. And it was like the champagne summer where everyone was out in the park having picnics, would seem like all day
Yeah.
long.
Right. You actually got
Oh
good
my
weather.
God. Yeah, it was unprecedented. But, I think cities can continue to create spaces that invite conversations, and things that invite conversations or stuff like is like art, or something interesting to look at,
Mm.
or see good seating. And particularly, and this is something that I saw all over the place in London, and is something that is quite prominent in most major cities, is the infiltration of public space through private ownership. So, I love
Mm.
Granary. Would you call it Granary Square, right behind King's Cross, where they had that new development?
I don't even
It
know,
was
to be
awesome, man. I
honest.
mean, I spent a lot of time there, but it was obviously a police space, and so only certain types of people, I guess, are allowed in these spaces. And sometimes you don't even need police. You have things like homeless spikes or benches that are designed improperly to
Oh yeah,
sit and lie
that's
down.
terrible, man.
So, we have,
Yeah, I think what they do with the benches is terrible, man.
yeah,
That's seriously like messed up, man. These people already got nowhere to sleep. Don't mess up a bench, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And so I think there's a hypocrisy in trying to design a park that's beautiful, that is adorned with chairs that are essentially put there to tell people that they don't belong there. And that's a tension that we
100%.
have to address. And so I'm optimistic that cities can do it, and that we have to work with developers and, whatever. This is a situation, and so we
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
just make sure that beauty and art are accessible to everybody. It's a human right, I would suggest.
yeah. Because a place can be the most beautiful place in the world, but if there's like incredible disparity and there's people like I remember when I went to Vancouver and I saw it
Oh
there.
my
It's
gosh.
similar
Yeah.
to London in a sense that, well, I think it's a little bit more visible because it's more concentrated in Vancouver. But yeah, I don't think it's right that there's such disparity in the in urban environments, man. It's just it's messed up. Like a place can be as beautiful as it wants to be, but if they're like if people are like dying from freezing cold conditions or not having enough food, then what's the point? Do you know what I mean? That's what I kind of feel like.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a few years ago, I was on the mayor of Edmonton's poverty task force. Edmonton's a city in northern Canada, and
mm,
and one of the things I remember him saying was, it's just not appropriate for a city of our collective wealth to have people who are on the streets. Um,
mm,
so yeah, I'm on the same page, but I think well, I can maybe give a plug for a project I'm working on in Canada right now.
go through.
It's a group of community members who came together, one of whom is the mayor of Victoria, where I grew up, on Vancouver Island in BC,
Mm-hmm.
after I was in Montreal. And we just decided, it's a pandemic. More and more people are sleeping in the parks. There's some people that did not like that homeless people are in the parks, and made a big stink about it. And you can understand that if you feel scared, that's something your concerns are legitimate, but fundamentally, like, people are sleeping in the rain and cold, and this is not okay. So we
Yeah.
raised $500,000 Canadian to buy 30 shipping container homes, and
Oh,
landscape
amazing.
architecture. We're taking over a parking lot, and making a temporary community. But it's from the get go. It was very, very important to us that this was this place of beauty. It wasn't just like an industrial housing, that the neighbors or whoever else who drove by or walked by or maybe even wanted to walk through considered a blight or something. So you
Yeah.
can start conversations, but ultimately we wanted to make it something that involves art and landscape architecture, because the people who live there are deserving of that. So
Yeah.
I think.
100%. Everyone has a right to have a nice place to live,
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, cities are super complicated, and I'm saying this as having spent a considerable amount of time in Mexico City now. It is a very surreal place that constantly challenges my conceptions of what a city should be. Hmm.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, it's I've been to Mexico. I went to Mexico City about 3 years ago. It's definitely like it's an interesting place, man. How has travel been in general in this time? Because I'm someone who's normally itching to get traveling, but I've been a bit more reserved at the moment because I feel like you can fly somewhere and not know when like the powers that can be el gobierno are gonna like suddenly just like change everything and just like say that you have to be vaccinated to go here or say that you have to like isolate for 2 weeks or whatever. As like I imagine like Mexico's a little bit like more free and open just
Um,
from what I've seen, but
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure.
I mean, I don't have any. It's, I guess, based on my experiences. So I came here in December before it was considered, before things got bad, and I wasn't really expecting
Oh right,
that.
you've been there a while
Yeah,
then.
yeah. I
You've
mean,
been
I
there a
came
while.
when the Canadian government said that you can travel for essential reasons, and I came here for some work and some
Mm,
other things that I consider to be essential. And so it's been
mm,
interesting because I try to keep a low profile, but most
yeah.
places here. And when I say here, I mean in Oaxaca, when I was in Puerto Escondido and Oaxaca City,
Mm,
um, and Mexico City, people are pretty, like, you have to wear masks. And oh
oh
yeah,
really?
it's not like a big, like, and the police will stop you if you're not wearing one.
Oh
And
mad. Oh, you have to wear
oh
masks
yeah,
outside.
yeah, yeah.
Oh right, that's like in Spain. I heard in Spain they I don't know if it was a rumor, but if it was true, it was completely messed up. That they were making people if people wanted to swim in the sea, they still had to wear face
Yeah.
masks.
I mean, I have no opinion on the
I don't
science
know
of
if that's
that.
true though.
As a scientist, I
That's
just have to
mental.
understand what the rationale, but I'm not going to question governmental
Yeah, I don't know, man.
decisions.
Maybe they think they'll give it to the fish, maybe they think the people will give it to the fish or something. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, or talk to each.
That's messed up.
I have no idea, or I don't even know what the efficacy of the mask would be after submersion in salt water. But, but yeah, here, everyone's.
Yeah. What like? Obviously, I don't expect you to like have done mad
Yeah,
research on it, but what do you think about masks in general? Because I'll be honest, like I'm pretty skeptical about like what they can do, and the only reason I get annoyed about them, to be honest, is that working in a college at the moment, like students have to wear them all day. I have to wear them all day. Like we're like wearing a mask and there's plastic screens in between us and we're expected to be able to hear what they're saying and like break down like tasks for them and stuff. It's just,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I kind of skirt the mask debate. I don't really want to get involved in that, but I guess my
Yeah.
perspective is, the government is informed by scientists, and as a scientist, I have to respect the work of my peers. And also
Mm,
that, from what I understand about masks, I mean, trust me, like they're not comfortable. I don't like wearing them. It's not like I enjoy it,
mm,
but and I can imagine as students when you're wearing them all day, it's a lot. But at the end of the day, my understanding is
mm,
that they do assist with infection rates from the dissemination of the virus to the reception of it. So I don't know. I think I
mm.
actually, what I don't understand, is in a lot of cities right now they're closing down parks. That's something I don't understand.
Yeah, that's very, very stupid.
Opinion piece about this.
Well, given that I swear research has been shown that vitamin D is one of the main um like main things people can obtain to like create like more resistance towards the virus. So that seems crazy
Yeah,
to
and
me.
just access to public spaces, particularly for people who live perhaps in really small environments and perhaps are living in poverty and don't have a private backyard at their disposal. Which is something that's an issue in Canada, because you have
Hmm.
this massive split. There's concentrated poverty and population density in some areas, and so when you shut down parks and you start giving the police reasons to stop people who are in parks,
Mm.
you invite you invite the potential for people of color, particularly Black and Indigenous people in Canada, to be stopped by the police. So
Mm.
that's my issue. Whether we wear
100%.
masks indoors or outdoors, or it's different. But if we're shutting down parks, then I have something to say about that for sure. Yeah.
I hear you. Um, Another thing that I saw is that like you're a big advocate of
Uh,
yoga, and as someone who's like been practicing for like 8 years now, I was just interested in like what got you into yoga and what do you think that it's kind of like done for you as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I'm my family's Hindu, and I practice Hinduism, and that's been
Oh,
something that
amazing.
has been growing slowly over the last 5 to 6 years, which is essentially a way to reclaim something that was at once one part of my life, a target of harassment. You like
Hmm.
grow up with a brown kid who's kind of nerdy. You get a lot of bullshit. So from your
Mm.
peers. And so, when I was a kid, I was always very interested in Hinduism, and I'd read all the books on Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda and the myths and the stories of India. And when I went there, the last time I was in India was like 23 years ago when I was 11 or 12.
Oh,
Yeah, and
mad.
we go to like the mandirs, the temples, and I was just super enchanted. So I think I've always been a pretty spiritual person, particularly as well because my grandmother lived with us from Bangladesh for about 4 years, and during that time, I learned a lot about Hinduism, and that's really like probably the foundation for my connection to yoga, because I see yoga as a spiritual practice. Um,
Yeah,
and I got
100%.
into it when my mom recommended I go because my back was hurting when I was 20, and I started with Bikram's hot yoga, and then
Okay.
after that, I just started going to different studios, and then I found one eventually in Victoria, British Columbia, where I, grew up and did my yoga teacher training, finished in December this past year. Um,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. So, it was probably one of the best things I could have ever done, the training, because um, it was a deep dive into the philosophies and really understanding the context and the tradition and the evolution of what yoga was to what yoga can be in different contexts today. And what it's done for me is it's helped my body. I've put a lot of work into myself,
Mm,
from therapy and trying to eat well and all these other things. And, yoga has probably been the most effective, if you want to say effective, it's been the most helpful modality when it comes to me having a sense of groundedness and harmony.
I definitely feel that, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I relate to that a lot, man.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of like a tool that can like really like affect your base level of like ease, I feel like yoga's one of the most powerful things you can do, man. Just like in reduction of anxiety, I think it's so amazing.
Definitely. Yeah. And, I think as a neuroscientist who's looked at the kind of the neuroscience, scientific underpinnings of why yoga helps, it's
Yeah, would you be able to tell us a bit more about that? Because that sounds super
yeah, I mean,
interesting.
so I'm not an expert on polyvagal theory, but it was put forward by someone named Dr. Stephen Porges. So he's a neuroscientist, I think, at Chicago. And
Hmm.
there's a nerve that runs down to the back of your neck into through down your, I think, and it's more on your gut. But stimulation of that nerve, which can be done through yogic postures, through breathing exercises like pranayama, through
Hmm.
chanting. Um, when you stimulate that nerve, my understanding is that it calms your system down, and cold water exposure and, Wim Hof, all these things also stimulate that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really important about yoga is that it facilitates a sense of embodiment. And when you're stressed out and your heart's racing, it's really hard to be in your body. If you're like ready to,
Yeah.
it's a tense state to be in. And so through yogic postures, I think it allows you to feel more of your body and then return to that sensation perhaps at another time, when you're about to encounter something that stresses you out, or you have a moment of stress, you can remember that sensation and go back to it. That's been my experience with it.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Nice one for that, man. Um, like you're writing a book at the moment,
I'm
right?
trying. Yeah. I was signed to an agency to Cook McDermott in January, I think, and they're in a Canadian
Hmm.
agency with an international wing, and have some names that I think would ring some bells that they're also representing. So there's a lot of potential there, but it's really been quite challenging for me
Hmm.
to get in the flow, because I've been teaching a class and have had these textbook chapters that I'm writing a textbook chapter on the intersection between yoga and urban design right now. Yeah, it's
Jeez.
due like this week. so so
Oh
once
man.
that's done, and I'm done, right, I have a talk in June. So these things kind of like line up. But anyways, to answer your question, I've been writing it slowly, and I think that it's going to be a collection of essays that explore my experiences of the pandemic. Actually, it's been a crazy story. um, I almost met the
Mm.
Queen. Instead, I was on a plane back to Canada
Oh God.
the day Boris Johnson shuts down the company. Sorry, not company, country. People.
It may as well be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
company.
Let's
It may
get
as well
let's
be a
get into
company.
that. But
Oi,
I
don't get me
know,
started. It doesn't take a lot to get me
I
started.
know. But yeah,
That's why I put it in lyrics.
I
That's why I
know.
put it in
Yeah, I love
lyrics.
them. Yeah, no, it's so it's
Oh,
going to be
geez.
this. I think little stories of just experiences that have happened in the last year that connect back to my childhood and my understanding of the world, and
Mm,
fundamentally, how it is that we can perhaps rebuild after this interruption in what we consider to be normal.
mm-hmm.
I hope for it to be um, about hope and something that we can, you know, um, just have a conversation about. I don't think I have all the answers, and I would not for one second want to be seen as some
Yeah.
sort of pundit, or guru on some
Mm-hmm.
topic. But I just,
you can only give your
Yeah,
experience, man.
exactly. Yeah, that's it.
That's
It's like your rap,
like
and
that's all you can do.
it's your narrative.
Yeah, it's easy
Yeah.
to think like, who the fuck am I to like have an opinion about this or this or this? But everyone has a voice that's
Well,
like what story that's
this
worth
connects
hearing.
to like my sense of spirituality. I'm reading more about tantric scriptures and the Vijnana Bhairava,
Hmm.
and this form of tantrism is Shaivite, and it's non-dual in its thinking. And the reason I like non-dual thinking is because, one of the reasons is because it abolishes the concept of a hierarchy. And so when I'm saying that, I don't want to be seen as some expert, because I see what happens to people. I fully appreciate that I got a PhD in neuroscience and that takes some work and the credentials matter. But when it comes to like, being a leader that facilitates versus being a leader that tells people how to live their lives, those are kind of two
Yeah,
things that
yeah,
I think that's an important distinction. And fundamentally, if I was to believe what I practice, and I'm studying, it's that we're all equal, and that's what
yeah.
I want people to get from this book is like, I'm going to share some things that I haven't told anyone about, many people about, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to talk about these things that as they pertain to mental health, because we're so stressed out, we're so tight in our bodies that vulnerability physically is even hard to manifest, and I think looking at the social climate in the world right now, like we need to start having vulnerable conversations.
Yeah, but there's still stigma. I think no matter how like it has improved, but I still think there is
Yeah,
like there's definitely still stigma.
100%. I've had friends who've taken their lives, and if I was to look at within the
Mm,
context of my own cultural community, in Toronto in 2016, I think in 2017, more than 20 Bangladeshi men committed suicide. And
that's
yeah, and
crazy.
that's just in one study of one city. And when I look at what my dad went through with the genocide and how hard it is for people to talk about their experiences because of the trauma of that, as someone who's a product of
Mm,
that, of someone who survived that, which comes with all sorts of gifts, but it also comes with some other things that can contribute to mental health. Men, particularly brown men, don't. They're just terrified of having that
yeah.
conversation. So that this is kind of my way of trying to use my platform, to encourage people and show them that, like, who really gives a shit about what people think about what you've done or how you feel about things. It's more about disclosure and sharing for the purpose of community.
Yeah, because I think if like if you're someone who's like gone through a really difficult time in your life and has been at the lowest point and you've come out the other side, there's something people can in a similar situation can learn
A
from you.
hundred, a
Do you know what I
hundred
mean? No,
percent,
it doesn't.
100%.
And I think I don't know about you, but that's part like yeah, like that really motivates me, man. To like even to have conversations like this. If like one person can like hear something you say and be like, all right, like just simply that, just like that's like that's a form of
100%
currency.
social capital and just compassion, right? I love it.
Yeah, because yeah, we get the wool like pulled over our eyes way too much, man. But yeah,
Hmm.
we are all connected. I know it sounds like some
No, it's not
hippie stuff,
hippie.
but
It's not hippie.
it's
It's
true, man. It's
science.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, it's mad. But yeah, I think that was like everything I wanted to get into,
Amazing.
man. Unless you had anything, any other little.
No, I mean, I want to interview you at some point. I want to learn about your process of, your writing.
Go on, you can ask me a
Can
couple
I?
things now. It's all
Okay,
good.
so how long have you been
Yeah,
rapping?
yeah. Oi, mate, I've been rapping since about 2005. I, s- yeah, I started off as a grime MC.
Wow.
I don't
Oh,
know
I
if you
know
know about
grime.
grime. Do you
Yeah,
know about grime?
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like going to youth club and like spitting in a room with about like 15 other people, and just everyone's like trying to grab the mic. The quality was terrible, and just yeah, that's how it started off really.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And when did you transition? Would you consider what you do to be conscious rap? I know that's a label for, I don't know how
I
useful it
mean,
is, but yeah, it just seems like,
I suppose so.
okay. Yeah.
I
Go ahead.
think what happened was, yeah, I used to be called Terrorism. I was like a grime MC called Terrorism. And that's where that's where I had the most success, if you view success in the eyes of society.
Ah,
The most like views and exposure and all of that kind of stuff. But that only got me to a certain point. I mean, I was quite an angry
mm,
teenager. And I didn't really know myself, and I'd had a kind of like, I didn't have the worst life in the world, but I'd had like an interesting upbringing. I'll say it like that.
okay.
And I needed somewhere to like channel that emotion. Do you know what I mean? And so that's what I was doing for years and years, and it did get me somewhere because I feel like people resonate with any energy if it's
Hmm.
authentic. That's what I
Totally.
feel. But yeah, I went traveling for the first time. I was experiencing really like crippling anxiety,
Mm.
depression, and um, yeah, I decided to go traveling, man. I had some money, not tons of money, but I had enough to go on like a interrail trip. I don't know if you know about
I've heard of
interrail.
it. Yeah. When I was in London, I never took one of their trains, but
Yeah. So I went on a trip like across Europe for like 30 days. Like it was like the most basic. You know how people like travel when they travel for the first time, where they like, I was like in a new country like every 2 days, and I would just go and see the main sites, and then I would just like go to
that's
another
awesome.
country.
That's a great way to see a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, I know it is, but
You like to
I like the
lounge?
idea of
Yeah, me
slow travel
too.
a bit more, and like going in depth and like meeting the people and seeing the true culture. But yeah, so like after this trip, like I feel like it was a very like formative experience. I don't know, like as soon as I got back from the trip, I'd kind of decided that the terrorism name didn't really resonate with like how
What
I
was it
felt
called?
anymore as a
Terrorism?
person. Like terrorism,
Terrorist.
I don't know. It's a name I made up at
Oh, okay.
school.
I thought it was supposed to sound like
It
something
doesn't.
like terrorism.
It Oh no, it does.
Okay.
Oh no, no, it wasn't anything
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I just decided that like none of that was like resonating with me anymore. I didn't like decide I was gonna like rap about more conscious topics. It just kind of like went
Mm.
that way. I think just because I kind of changed my lifestyle at that point as well, man. Like I on that trip I quit
Wow.
alcohol. I haven't drunk since then, and this was like 7 or 8 years
Wow.
ago.
Respect.
I quit cigarettes. I stopped smoking weed because I was like a massive stoner. But my anxiety just got to the. I shouldn't say my anxiety. I always call anyone out who says my
Hmm.
anxiety. I always
Hmm.
call them out, or my
Hmm.
depression. It's not. It's a temporary experience that's passing through.
Wow.
But
Well done.
yeah. So that kind of that definitely like changed me as a person. So I felt like the music started to change after that. When I got more into like the yoga, the meditation, and less on the like getting mash up and ordering Domino's pizza at 5 in the morning. I feel like yeah, the music started to organically change, and then
Do you think
yeah,
that you got
that's how.
healthier? So what you created and put out was a reflection of your state of mind in your body?
Yeah, possibly,
Hmm.
man. Because yeah, well, I know it sounds cliche, but like they say you are what you
100%.
eat, but I kind of think it's bigger than that. I feel like you are what you
Hmm.
consume. So I feel like if you're someone who's like eating terrible food and like consuming negative media all of the time and is around a bunch of angry people and you're picking up on that energy all the time, you you might not help but be a product of that. But if you're putting more positive things into your body and experiences, I think that's going to change you. Do you know what I mean? Because I think we're malleable.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen changes in my own life as well after I started making better decisions. And um, it's
Yeah,
like a snowball effect sometimes, which is great.
yeah, yeah. No, it's jokes for me to be
Ah,
interviewed by a neuroscientist. I'm not gonna lie. I know you're a human, but it's
oh,
still
man. Well,
it's
the
mad.
other thing that I'm interested in, from the perspective of about you being a rapper is, do
Sorry, what did
you
you say there?
just,
It went a bit glitchy then.
oh, sorry. I was just curious to ask another question to you about your, the rapping and writing, like for your process. Do you just show up and like listen to a beat and just freestyle, or do you like sit with it and, how do you get from A to B? B being what you put on Spotify. Well, actually, no, not that much, but A to B, B being like what
Yeah.
what you spit or like what you record.
All right. So I'm someone who like, I know a lot of people just like roll up to the studio and they just like come up with some stuff and they're just like, yeah, this is it. Like, let's go. I'm ready. After like 10 minutes, they're like, I've got it down. I'm not like that. I always like to I mean, I've done that
Yeah.
before,
Well, I saw your
but I think
freestyle.
the way which one?
Latif sent me one. It was something.
Big ups to Latif all
Yeah,
day, every day.
100%. He really appreciates you. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a
something
good guy.
TV, I think. SBTV. Yeah,
SBTV.
that's crazy. Like I saw some of my other.
Shout out to Jamal as well.
Yeah, that was amazing. But yeah, so you clearly can just, find the beat and kind of go with it. But you were about to say that.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I feel like one thing that I've always done is like I take a while. Like I take the music. I'll like receive an instrumental of someone, or if I make an instrumental, I use that, and then I don't know. I like what I say to like be authentic to where I'm at that
Mm-hmm.
time, but at the same time, I do think that getting caught in the like process of trying to make everything sound too profound. I feel like that's what gave me writer's block for a bit, and I still think I'm a bit in that
Yeah, me too.
because I started to feel that like I couldn't mess around anymore. I couldn't just chat shit because you've created an identity as someone who like represents a certain level of realness.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I was writing my dissertation for my PhD, I would get stuck on trying to make things perfect or profound. And one day I just stopped caring and just started writing. And that's the way I've been trying to approach my books, which has been interesting. Sometimes when you're in the zone, you just write things. You kind of blow your own mind and get high on your own ideas. And you're like, oh man, that's amazing. You just kind of keep going. But when that stops, you're like, oh no, man, and sometimes you just need to get things out, and it just gets back into that flow state. It's a stream, arguably a stream of consciousness.
No, 100%. And I think if you like set out to try and write something profound, it's not going to come. You just have to just write what comes to you. Really.
Last question for the Robin Mazunder podcast here.
Go on. I'm liking it because it takes the pressure off a little bit. I was getting too serious as an interviewer earlier.
No. It was great.
And now I feel less nervous.
It's organic. So what inspires you? And you could an abstraction of that could be what inspires you to write, but what inspires you on a daily basis?
Oosh.
And it can be different day to day.
I don't know. I think kind of what we touched on earlier, like that. I don't know, man. I feel that I want to. I know it sounds like a big, grand thing, but I don't know. I just want to help people to be healthier and happier, man. Because like,
beautiful.
I've felt how it feels to be like really lonely and like isolated and like just have a feeling of no
dark
hope
night of the soul.
and just like terrible panic attacks where you feel like you're gonna die and stuff. And I don't want people to feel like that, man. I'm not saying like the music will just magically make that evaporate, but I just feel that like we have an opportunity to have such a world where people are flourishing a lot more, man, and we're just not there. Like, so I feel like anything that you can put out that's like can help to try and like just even slightly like make people like question I don't know, like a negative pattern or trail of thought or do you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like
you want to
Yeah, that's kind of what drives me, to be honest. Obviously, some of it's probably egoic as well, because there's
Oh, the
always
ego
that as
serves a
well. Like
purpose. You know, you need it.
that
So,
yeah, yeah. What about you? What inspires you with your work?
um,
Flipping it now. You weren't ready
oh
for that. You weren't ready for
no.
that. No, I'm joking.
No, I think the same thing. You know, I volunteered in university in community inclusion because there's something about it that spoke to me. You know, I ended up being an occupational therapist because there's something about it that spoke to me. But you know, I ended up getting burnt out in my work in community mental health. I was
Mm,
just seeing things on a daily basis that was just too much for me. And I was young and I
yeah.
hadn't gotten the therapy. You know, after that, I went into therapy for 7 years. I did 7 years of Jungian psychoanalysis. I, you know, did
Hmm.
Vipassana retreats. I did some other retreats, things that get you
Oh
into,
man, they sound so intense, man.
oh,
Vipassana sounds so
yeah, yeah.
intense. I
Honestly,
nearly signed up for
honest,
one. I nearly signed up for one. I just thought, nah, actually.
uh, I think it's worth it, but it's certainly no walk in the park, which is literally all you do all day. By the way, is just walk around and then you meditate.
Oh,
Um,
if you got to walk around all day, I would have been down. But I thought you literally had to like. I was reading like Reddit threads about it, and it was saying like you just end up with like
oh yeah,
excruciating
yeah,
back
yeah. No,
pain and like
you're
knee pain
meditating for
and
most
like,
of the day. But the times when you're
man.
not meditating, you can't read, you can't write, you can't make eye contact, you can't do push-ups or anything. So you just like walk around.
Oh no, that's
People
a lot.
braid like you know what do you call it, wheat grass, and they stack rocks and stuff. It's pretty funny. But you know, anyways,
Bro.
to answer, to get back um to your question, I mean, or the question I posed for you, it
Mm,
is, you know, I was burnt out, and I look back at that, and one of the things that I've really had to reconcile with, particularly here in Mexico City, and someone who comes from, you know, parents who were immigrants and refugees, is like, what's your part, and then what part is there something like, do you know your limits as to what you're capable of addressing? You know, and
mm.
I know a lot of very sensitive people who want to help everybody, and then it ends up burning them out. So now, you
Yeah,
know, so
yeah.
now for me, the thing is like, I think it's important for me to give, to spend my time in ways that support joy, you know, whether that's teaching classes or
Hmm.
doing research on cities that helps make them, you know, more equitable and supportive of well-being. But at the end of the day, like, you got to love yourself too, you know, and so
Yeah,
this
100%.
this this kind of turning inwards of something that you orient your life to, and when it comes to service, Rabindranath Tagore was do you know Tagore as a Brit?
No, I don't actually
Tagore
know.
was the first non-Western person to win the Nobel Prize for literature. I think many people would have considered him a polymath. Um, and he
Okay.
had this quote, and let me just look it up, just because I don't want to make sure it's properly attributed. But I think, oh my gosh, I think that hopefully my iPods didn't jump because I just got a notification on my phone. Sorry, 1 second. Service.
All
We're
right, it's
good.
all good,
Okay.
man.
Okay. So he said that I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service is joy. And I think that's just been my motto. And now, as I'm older, you know, service has its limitations, and you have to kind of take care of yourself in the process. But that's what it's all about. I mean, I don't know. I've been into deep dark pits, and you kind of realize that all the money in the world's not going to make you happy. It's service.
Defo.
So yeah.
Nah, that's powerful stuff, man. And the way that quote rolled off your tongue, I reckon you must have written a few lyrics in your time.
Yeah, I used to freestyle when I was a kid, and
Oh yeah, I knew it. I
oh
knew
man,
it. Real recognized real. No, I'm
me and
joking.
Latif had some sessions too together, and I'm a big fan of poetry and wordplay and structure. It's, you know, why I like writing. But when you're in the zone and you have
Mm.
a good beat and you're not feeling self conscious, some amazing things can happen.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
100%, man. And do you think, because like I really like writing in
Yeah.
general, but I don't know, like, do you think like writing songs can translate to like writing books and vice versa? Like for you, do you think it'd be easier for you to write songs than other people because you've got such a grasp on like vocabulary and you're well versed in writing?
I mean, to be
And vice
honest,
versa, like if I was gonna go and write a book, would it help that I could rap?
yeah. I mean, I think if your first form of writing is artistic expression, particularly poetry, then you have a handle, and I consider rap poetry. Then you have a handle on
Yeah, yeah, same.
structure and semantics and psychodynamic expression and metaphor. All of those things make for beautiful
Mm,
writing, and
mm,
to be honest with you, it's a lot easier for me to just have the constraints of a song, and the
mm.
structure of a beat. I work well with restraints. That to me is a lot easier than sitting down and writing like a full chapter. But then you hit that point where you're like, that doesn't sound good. And then you kind of walk away with your hands up in the air, right? But I think it all translates. I think art translates to all art, and I think that writing is art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think yeah, if we ever meet in person, it would have been sick to do this in person, by the
Next
way.
one.
But
Next one.
like, yeah, yeah. If we ever do it in person, we'll have to have a little like off the
Oh
dome
my
freestyle
God, that'd
session,
be
man.
amazing. I've always wanted to do that. So we'll wait for person,
Yeah,
because the online
we could.
stuff might be kind of hard.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, man. Yeah, it was sick chatting to you though,
Yeah,
man.
no, seriously, I really appreciated it. I felt a little starstruck. Um,
Oh,
no,
don't
I'm
be silly.
serious.
Like, if you knew how nervous I was
Uh,
in the past couple of days, like just to like relaunch the podcast and
well,
that.
it's an honor.
Nah, because yeah, I didn't want to appear like ignorant about like I don't know, like urban planning and all of
I don't
that
know
kind of
anything about urban
stuff.
planning
But
either, for what it's worth. I'm a neuroscientist who studies
yeah,
it, so I know a bit. I'll say
yeah,
that. But I think with the core of why I do the work that I do is that everyone can hopefully relate to it. It's about how living in a city makes you feel. The psychology of your daily
yeah.
life. So,
If I got
yeah,
one more
go
question
go
actually,
for
like
sure.
say like for instance you became like mayor tomorrow,
Hmm.
right? Of I don't know which city were you living in Canada like most
Victoria,
recently.
British Columbia.
So is that already quite well set up for
Oh
well-being
yeah,
or
Victoria is probably one of the most well-designed cities in Canada.
uh, have you lived in
Yeah, yeah. I
Toronto?
did my master's in Toronto.
So say for example in Toronto or London, if you just became
Yeah,
mayor tomorrow, what would be like the first things you would try and implement to try and help people feel more like grounded and more of a sense of well-being in their day-to-day lives that you could try and influence?
I'd start by asking people who are the
Like,
most marginalized in the city about their experiences, and ask them when they
mm,
leave their house to when they get back, if they do that, and if they don't leave their house, why don't they leave their house? Use that to inform, you know, the the policy changes. I mean, fundamentally, I love bike lanes. I love cool parks. I love
yeah.
public art, but housing affordability is like probably the most important thing I would consider.
Oh, it's got
Right?
ridiculous,
I
man.
lived in London. It was,
It's
it
become
was
ridiculous.
bonkers. I don't know how anyone affords to live there. It's crazy to me, especially.
Bristol's nearly getting as
Oh,
bad as
really?
London as well.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. So I think housing affordability. But if I was to be like the fun mayor, I would you know make separate. You guys have this, or I say in London, I remember they had the cycle superhighways. Put those in more places and allow, and so that we can have more people on bikes and less people in cars, which is going to address this pollution, air pollution epidemic you have going on there. Like all these things work together, right?
Yeah.
So we can make it fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. That sounds good. I hope you get in the office then.
Yeah, people have asked me. I kind of like keeping a low profile, but and all my friends who are politicians can't have a second on their own. But maybe when I'm like 60 or something, when I'm lonely
Shh.
and want people to talk to me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
rush. There's no
yeah,
rush.
yeah. It's something. It's a very
All right,
dignified.
man.
It's a very dignified um, profession and vocation. Yeah, it's not easy. CityCon 8 gets a lot of flack, and my friends who are mayors get a lot of flack, and you need thick skin. Yeah. So I'm building up.
Yeah, do it, man. Do it. Yeah, like 10 more years of yoga, you'll be ready.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Yoga mayor.
Yeah, that would be sick.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
And when it's up, let me know. I'll
likewise
share
man.
all platforms, and I'm hoping for another song on Spotify from you soon.
Oh mate, it's gonna happen. It will happen. I nearly retired like a month ago, man. But I'll send you some more links to my stuff, man, because there's a lot under the radar.
Okay.
But yeah, I nearly retired. Like,
please don't.
Ago, I'm just gonna see what happens, man. If inspiration strikes, it strikes.
Please don't. Let's make a song together. Let's inspire each other.
All right, let's do it. I'm down.
Right. I'm down. Enjoy your evening there. Right?
But yeah,
what is it, like 8?
Where can people find you on, like?
Where can people find me?
Yeah, 20 to 10.
Yeah, they can find me at robinmazumder.com. So it's ROBINMAZUMDER.com. That's my same, that's my name. You can find that on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on Clubhouse. And yeah, and you can just.
Oh yeah, Clubhouse is supposed to be.
Yeah,
thick,
we should do a session on Clubhouse or on Twitter Spaces. I think a live conversation like this could be pretty interesting. But yeah, if people have questions, send me an email, and I'm always really happy to help. Support young scientists, particularly scientists or people who are interested in these things from marginalized communities. From the I guess in like the UK you call it BAME, right? So I'm really keen on that because we need more representation in science in general. So.
No, 100%.
Hit me up.
Thanks. All right, man. But yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to you, man, and thanks for taking the time.
Take care.
And yeah, man, look out for the book, man. Sounds super interesting.
We can exchange. You can send me some songs, and I can send you some drafts.
Oh yeah, that would be sick.
All right, take care.
All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your day, man.
Peace.
All right, peace, sir. Blessings. Yo.